So, this is the second semester that we're doing it. And I'd like to introduce our presenters today. First is Professor Joanna Kolendo. Professor Kolendo arrived at CSU last June, and she manages access to electronic resources provided to the CSU community by the library. She also teaches library instruction sessions, as well as staffs the reference desk on the second floor of the library, providing research assistance to both students and faculty alike. She completed her undergraduate coursework in 2001 at Dominican University, focusing on English literature and economics. And she received her Master of Library and Information Science from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in 2006. And since obtaining her degree, she has worked in both academic and public library settings, and over the years has become fascinated with numerous library issues, such as library technology, especially federated discovery search systems, and the digitization of rare manuscripts. And most recently, in 2010, she received a Master's of Philosophy in Medieval Literature and Languages from Trinity College in Dublin. I didn't know that. And Professor James Kowalski from the CTRE, whose primary responsibilities include developing training opportunities for faculty to broaden and hone their skills as both teachers and researchers. He is responsible for communications in the CTRE, including its newsletters, website, and Twitter account, and managing special projects for faculty, such as new faculty orientation, the faculty recognition ceremony, and the provost colloquium. Mr. Kowalski earned his Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Chicago and his Master of Science in Education degree from Northwestern University. And in April of 2013, he received Certified Faculty Developer status from the Learning Resources Network. So, welcome Professors Kolendo and Kowalski.
Thank you. So we're here today to talk about syllabi. What we're going to be talking about today starts from square one. The basic ingredients, how to put it together, what makes it effective, what are some common omissions, mistakes that are made, how to draw in students to make them more engaged with the syllabus, make it clearer for them to understand, and make them feel more accountable to what's actually there. Some of the things that I'll be talking about are just the basic ingredients of putting a syllabus together. We're going to go through also some examples of syllabi, so you can think about, after we talk for a bit about what makes for a good syllabus, take a look at a couple examples and see, and just get your minds going. What's good about them, what might you improve about them, and then we're going to talk about using Moodle as a resource for your syllabus, and incorporating LIS resources into your syllabus as well. Not just making it a static paper document, but how can we make syllabi better by using electronic resources as well. Leaving anything else?
No, that's basically it. I'll be doing the last part of it in case you said me sitting here and you're like, why isn't she contributing? I'm going to be the last part, and that's basically when your syllabus is already set, how do you make it more dynamic? How do you add stuff that the library has to offer to your students so they could just use those resources and get to know what's in the library? So that's basically it.
Okay. So I'm just going to be seated for the first short part, but I'll be up as soon as we get through. It's just a short prezi We're going to be spicing up our syllabus. So we're going to be going through the basic ingredients, go take a look at a few resources that you can use to strengthen your syllabus, resources that are readily available on the CSU website, and a couple other websites that I'll show you. Like I said, we'll take a look at some examples. How do we upload to Moodle and LIS resources. So when we think of a syllabus, I think it's useful to try to break it down into its various uses. And if I can use some analogies here, a syllabus it acts as a few different things in the classroom. It provides basic information. It is also a roadmap so that students can understand, okay, we're starting here, this is what the course is about, and by the end of the course, I'm going to wind up here. I'll be able to do A, B, C. It's a rule book. It's not the kindest of terms, I guess, but when students come to class, there's a certain kind of social contract that everybody's engaging in. Certain behaviors, certain expectations that everybody's going to kind of abide by. And to have those explicit is a lot more useful than assuming that people are going to do certain things. And then finally, thinking of it as a contract. Literally, I mean, not legally binding, but a contract. So basic information. I'm just going to go through a few different things that I would strongly encourage you to have in your syllabus, in any syllabus. Course title and number. When is the course meeting? Where does it meet? I liken this to, I remember there was a short story I heard on NPR. It was about, there was a doctor somewhere on the East Coast, and he was pushing for this new standard to be put in place. That anytime surgery was going to take place, the primary surgeon and the assisting doctors, they would all come together, and they would actually have to say, okay, what surgery are we here for? Have we all washed our hands? Do we have the tools that we need to do this surgery? And so a lot of surgeons at first are thinking, this is ridiculous. I'm a professional, why would I have to say all these things? But then when you ask them, would you want, if you were being operated on, would you want the surgeon to go through this checklist? And they said, absolutely, I want the surgeon to go through that checklist. So, not to demean anybody, but always include the most basic stuff. Start from the basics. Who are you? What is your name? What is your email address? How do students contact you? When are they allowed to contact you? If you say you can contact me by email and you can expect a response within 24 hours, does that include the weekends as well? Does it include breaks? It's good to think about these things rather than your student comes back and says, why didn't you respond to me? And you say, oh, well, I didn't mean it that way. You should have read between the lines. What materials should they have? And what courses should they have taken before they're taking your course? You don't want them to get to week 3 of your course and then they realize, oh, they can't get credit for this because they haven't taken something else before. And some of the handouts I'll give you will have this written down, so don't feel like you have to copy it all. Thinking of it in terms of a roadmap. What is the course about? Just a short description, a few sentences. What are we going to be talking about? What are you expected to learn? What are the goals and objectives of the course? Generally speaking, you might find a few different definitions for educational goals, objectives, outcomes. Generally speaking, your goals are your broader, what students will be learning about in the course. And objectives are more specific, like students will be able to insert verb, okay, something specific. Students will be able to write a 5-page paper on Elizabethan prose, okay, specific. And if it's under a larger, broader goal. but to have these goals and objectives explicitly spelled out for students so that they know, okay, by the end of this course, if I'm working hard and I'm successful, I will be able to do these things. Not just that I will understand chemistry. You know, what does it mean to understand something? It's a very broad word. What are your expectations for how the course will proceed? What about if there is class discussion? Will students be expected to be, to be responsible for a certain amount of group work? If they're in groups, how will those groups function? Do certain people have roles? How do you expect students to, show up on time? Are there grace periods? All the nitty-gritty. How will things proceed? What is the roadmap? What can they expect of you in terms of your teaching method? Are you primarily a lecturer? Do you like Socratic discussion? Do you require students to do a lot of reading and then being quizzed on? How will things function? What can they expect? And then finally, a calendar. And calendars, some instructors, they have their courses down to a science, where they know, a session 12 of a course, they know exactly what topics they'll be hitting. In my experience, I've never been able to be that precise, 2 or 3 months in advance. But I can say, in these certain weeks, we'll be covering these topics. Just to have at least a rough idea of the progression of topics is a good thing. In terms of the rule book, how will grades function? Do you accept late work? If you do accept late work, what are they going to be dinged per day? Does extra credit exist in your course? Or even if it does, is that something that you do want to put in the syllabus? Extra credit, just for how I've approached it in the past, I've always thought of it in terms of a student who reaches a certain level of success in the course, who's tried hard, submitted all their assignments, are then eligible for extra credit. They've tried hard enough, they've done the work, and then they're eligible for extra credit. If they don't do assignments and don't do work, I've never been that sympathetic to giving that student extra credit. How have they earned the opportunity for extra credit? But, of course, every instructor, it's up to him or her. Academic integrity and student conduct. These, I'm going to talk a little bit more in a bit, because you can get these statements from the CSU website. These are canned statements you can just get right from the faculty handbook, student handbook, and I'll show you right where they are. Questions so far? We good? I know it's pretty straightforward stuff. In terms of the syllabus as a contract, a lot of instructors actually have the last page of the syllabus a contract that the student, it's a page that says, I, and then the student writes in their name, have read and understand all the components of the syllabus, sign my name and date it, and they submit that sheet. Shannon Van Slyke can tell you, does everybody know who Shannon is on campus? Okay, well, and she can tell you multiple occurrences of instructors who've had a sheet like that, a signed contract sheet from a syllabus, where the student signed that yes, they read the syllabus, and blah, blah, blah. And then that totally changed the nature of a student complaint for an instructor. Just, student had no grounds to make the complaint. Some instructors also have quiz, a few quiz questions in class for what was on the syllabus. There are a few different ways you can ensure you can get a higher rate of reading on the syllabus. I will say that there's an inverse relationship between length of syllabus and likelihood that a student will actually read the entire thing. So on one hand, you might think, well, if I have a 20-page syllabus that includes all the statements about anything that could possibly, any possible problem that could be encountered in class, you're covering your tracks, that's great. But if it's 20 pages long, I don't know the likelihood that all the students in the class are going to read it. I mean, you have to be fair-minded in a sense and not make it a super long syllabus. On the other hand, you can't make it too short, then you're probably not including everything that you should. So it's a matter of striking that balance. Okay, so I'm just going to show you really quickly where you can find a few different resources to help you assemble your syllabus. In terms of statements, the faculty handbook and the student handbook. To show you, if you go to the CSU homepage and go to Office of the Provost, Contract Administration, and here's the faculty handbook, a nice digital version for us all. And in the table of contents, I mean, a lot of this, of course, is applicable to anybody who's here as an employee, but you also have a lot of all the academic policies and procedures. So you can actually go and just copy and paste any one of these that you want right into the syllabus. You can also go to Office of Student Affairs, Student Rules, and you can go right away to the Code of Conduct or just the entire student handbook, and there you can take a look at statements that are available in the student handbook, and again, just bring them right into your syllabus. A couple other resources I had listed there. So department inventory. Every department chair on campus should have an inventory of all syllabi for any course in that department. So if you want to see what your colleagues are doing with their syllabi, or maybe what an instructor has done, who may have taught the course before you, take a look at that syllabus just for ideas. That's always a great way to approach it. And that's very valuable, of course, because you're seeing how people, how people in the past have worked with, the same students that you're working with, teaching the same materials that you're teaching. So high level of applicability. And finally, who here has heard the term open courseware? Well, I know we all did on the 23rd, right, because that was covered in scholarly communications, but MIT has a really excellent open courseware website. Open courseware, these are educational materials that are open and available to anybody who can use them, okay? The people who created them have given permission to put them up on the website. And so if you find something that's useful to you, you just give attribution to the person who created it, and then you can use it just, for however you need to. So, MIT OpenCourseWare, it's just ocw.mit.edu. Okay, MIT was a pioneer with OpenCourseWare, and they were still very active with it. So if I click over here on Advanced Search, and I go down to Limit Syllabus, and I want to find syllabi for, let's say, a chemistry course that I'm teaching. I'll just search chemistry, and again, keep it to syllabus, search, and I'll get a bunch of different syllabus examples for chemistry courses. Okay? And of course, you can do the same thing with calendars, readings, lecture notes, or whatever, but you can't do it for syllabi as well. So far, so good? Okay. I'm actually going to get out now. I have prepared a few handouts for you. The first one Here's, at CSU, we don't have a required template for syllabi. The closest that we have to a required template is this recommended format from North Central Association accrediting body. The text in black was added. It's the original recommended format of NCA. The blue, this is stuff that was added by, I believe Dr. Rowan added it himself, because this is who I got this version of the document from. And you'll note that by course objectives, there's also learning outcomes. That we have general education outcomes for the course. Okay, but pretty basic stuff. I mean, this is ABC Mother Goose simple. Pretty much any syllabus, you could argue, should at least have these things in them. Could you also include other things as well? Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where I've put together a checklist for you. The things in bold on this checklist, and it's a front and back. The things in bold are the things actually on that template, but I've also included a few extras for you to consider. And this is just something helpful as you're putting your syllabus together. Just have it to the side of the computer, and you can check them off one by one as you're putting it together. And I've broken it into different sections to try to make it a little more, because I mean, there are so many different components to put into a syllabus, and I think kind of breaking it into chunks makes it more easily digestible and easier to read. Notice on the back of the checklist, the very last section, additional resources. I think it's a good idea to, in a syllabus, have, and you don't need to have entire statements, but just like contact information, a website URL, a phone number for different resources right here on campus. If a student is struggling, maybe they have no idea that we have a Learning Assistance Center. If they have, if they need special accommodations for vision impairment, do they know that we have an office of abilities, an abilities office here on campus? A lot of things could easily be assumed that the student knows, and they have no idea that it exists. Okay, so just having a handful of some really useful resources here on campus can make the difference, make a night and day difference for student success in a class. Any questions on the checklist, on the template? Okay. I'm also passing out, this is a kind of a use it if it's useful to you kind of a document, but it's a brainstorming sheet. This is something that I put together kind of before you even jump into making a syllabus. Some useful questions to ask yourself, and that the answers to which you may not actually put in your syllabus, but having answers to the questions can help kind of how you approach the tone of the syllabus, the kinds of things that you consciously include or do not include. How formal is it going to be? Because a lot of things can subconsciously kind of seep through and create a very different tone for a syllabus than another kind of syllabus. So again, just having these questions kind of in your mind from the get-go can be useful. And then finally, here, this is a sheet just to help you if you haven't had a lot of experience putting together learning goals and objectives. Here's a sheet just to kind of help walk you through that, and it gives you some examples as well. Good verbs to use, like I said, understand is not a good verb. for a learning objective. But, for example, students will be able to categorize, different ways that factories, pollute the air or something. A million different examples. Okay. So I printed a couple example syllabi. So there are two very different. One, and I'm not saying that they're really good. I'm not saying that they're bad. But I would just like you to take a minute, look them over, and then we're just going to talk about maybe some ways you think they've done things well, and maybe how you might improve them. And these were they both come from MIT OpenCourseWare, so they are, did I give you two of the same? Yes, I did. Maybe another minute and then we'll jump in. Okay, who'd like to get the ball rolling? Let's start with the historical geology syllabus.
Well organized, detailed,
Well organized, detailed,
transparent.
lots of detail, lots of transparency.
Easy to read,
Easy to read.
Easy to
easy
read.
to follow.
Yeah, he's not trying to blow us away and impress us with his knowledge of, you know, his 1600 SAT vocab score, or 800 vocab score.
The learning and outcomes increase in capacity. Most complex ones at the end.
Okay, great.
I think that's very good part of the rules, which is very important.
I'm sorry, which part?
Pertaining to rules, course, the
Yeah,
classes.
right.
That's quite important.
Yeah, I think there would be very little confusion about what's expected.
All right.
I absolutely love the course outline calendar. Telling me exactly what I need to do, when I need to do it. So, I thought that was very good.
Yeah, pretty easy to read as well.
I like that as well, but just to play devil's advocate, the rest of it does follow the rules. But, which is important and necessary. But it also, you know, a lot of it speaks to the student who, I don't know, when I was in college, I knew what the outcome was, right? I'm supposed to learn, I'm
Mhm.
supposed to do what it says here. And I don't have to be reminded repeatedly about being polite in class, a la, you know, don't turn off my cell phone and show up. And that I have rights and responsibilities, because I knew I had responsibilities, right? I probably forgot that I had rights. And while the breakdown of what everything is worth is always important, and it's a lot to read. It's an awful lot to read. So if I were this student, I would be really, really thrilled with the course outline, because it tells me what I need to do to prepare for class. And I like the various links for other information if I need it. And I like that his contact information is prominent, and all the annoying numbers that one needs if one is dropped from class accidentally and has to re-up. But it's really difficult to include everything that is expected and make it fun to read.
Yeah,
I would move the outline up further so that you get what you need for the course first and then everything else later.
okay, that's a good idea. Certainly this instructor he's covering the moon and the stars. I mean, it's all here, and I don't know that every student is going to be reading through this thing. Useful, though, I mean, it's all useful.
It's very useful, and I
But-
think it speaks to the fact that the professor really knows his student body. Yes, John Smith. he's his
Yeah.
friend. He knows the student body. He knows, you know, he's seasoned in doing this, so everything is here. And the beauty of that is, again, I'm the student who's gonna read none of this, and then when I find out, oh, I wasn't supposed to be scholastically dishonest? Really? Says
Right.
who? It's right here, young lady, right in the syllabus. So, I mean, it's well done, but it's a lot.
I agree. I mean, it's well done in a lot of ways, but it does bring into question that, that inverse relationship thing that I was talking about earlier. No syllabus is perfect. I mean, I can say that. And, sometimes it also just depends on, the student who's reading it. Johnny Perfect student, yeah, he'll probably read through all this and great, but not everyone will. Gerard, were you saying?
A syllabus is a contract of sorts, and this is the thing that I've been battling with. Where do I put my contractual content in my syllabus? Do I put it in the first 2 pages, or do I put it at the end? Or should it be dispersed throughout? And so, seeing both of these, I think I'm getting my answer, but and it's it's a little redundant, it's contractual, but I think it works. I would change the aesthetics of it, but the actual information in it looks good. The course outline is really just a series of read this chapter, due dates, which is fine. And I kind of, wow, I think I'm gonna